So, hi everyone. My name is Rithika. I am the current technical director for SWE this year, and I'm putting on this workshop called Resources for Applying to Tech Internships, along with some other people who will also introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Simran. I'm the current IVP of SWE.
Hi, I'm Smriti. I'm the current advocacy director for SWE.
Hi, I'm Isabel. I'm the current president of SWE.
Okay. Awesome. I will get started. Oh no, that is not the present button. Okay. So this is the stuff that we're going to go over today. First, we have a lot of people who were willing to share some testimonials about how their internships have gone for different fields of engineering. We're going to provide some resume and cover letter tips. We're going to give you tips for how to find internship applications, how to manage your applications, how to practice for technical interviews, and a sort of small application starter pack that can help you get started with applying to internships if you're interested. So first we have internship testimonials.
Hi everyone, my name is Heidi. I'm currently your SWE secretary, and I'm going to share about my internship this summer at Tesla. So I was on the charging engineering team with a bunch of mechanical design engineers, and the project I worked on, or there were two. So one was like I created tools to improve manufacturing cycle times, which means like going to the factory and checking out how they manufacture these products and creating tools and fixtures to hopefully cut down the time it takes to build them. And the second project was I designed and built functional models to demonstrate vehicle charger capabilities. This was a super exciting project. It's like up and coming technology, and it was really fast paced. So yeah, those are my two projects. And some things that I learned from this internship is that it's really important to communicate with your team members to ensure there's compatibility between each of your individual components when you're all adapting a design to something new. So especially like when you're working on a team, you all kind of work individually at first, but then in the end, all your parts have to come together. So it's really crucial that you're all on the same page and that you're checking in regularly to ensure that the final product is good to go. Okay, and then how this was different from like classes. So in my projects, I primarily focused with CAD, manufacturing these products and then assembling them. But at UCLA, typically our classes cover theory and don't really have as many hands-on elements. So it's super essential to find these projects that you can do in engineering clubs. So that way you can get your hands dirty basically on some projects. And also like E96 classes are a really great way to do that. So certainly look out for those opportunities so that you can get a taste of engineering outside of the classroom. And my internship in particular was kind of sourced from ASME, which is the club for mechanical engineers here at UCLA. And I was interviewed by my manager and received like an offer after that. So these professional engineering clubs are also great resources to find opportunities, not just ones specific for your major, but also ones like SWE. So definitely get involved and pay attention to those event invites that pop up on Facebook.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Heidi. So the next internship testimonial we have is Isabel.
Yeah, so hi y'all. As I said before, I'm Isabel. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm a fourth year computer engineering student. So this past summer, I was an intern at AWS, and so I was a software engineering intern, so a lot of my work was working in AWS for AWS, which is like weirdly meta. But my actual project was making a dashboard that would allow the team to see metrics and customer impact of a service that they're making. So get stoked for that. EC2 is going to get really popping soon. But it was really cool because it was a full stack project. So I worked from the back end to the front end and just learned a lot. Yeah, so I just learned a lot of really cool technical skills. I've never used AWS before, which kind of ironic considering I was working for them. And I also just learned a lot about the development process and how to ask for help in a virtual environment, because obviously this is like my first time working virtually. And so it was really interesting to see, you know, how team dynamics change, as well as just interfacing with them and being okay, like pinging them for questions or being like, hey, can you share your screen and show me how to do things because I think I broke it, and just stuff like that. But yeah, I'd have to say one of my favorite parts of this was just having ownership of the project. Amazon has these leadership principles which are vaguely cult-like but mostly really cool, and one of them is ownership. And so they were very adamant about the fact that this project would be mine, it would have my name on it, and moving forward, like credit would be given where credit is due. And so already, like, my manager sometimes texts me updates and is like, yo, we're still using your dashboard, works great, good job. And I'm just like feeling really good about myself. As far as how I got this, I actually just applied online, which is like generally not the typical way to get an internship of this nature, but I just thought I'd shoot my shot, and they liked something they saw, but that's definitely not like the typical way to do it. But yeah.
Awesome. So next we have Tammy Yang. She's not here to say it in person, but I'm just gonna read off her slides and hope that I'm making sense. But she worked as an electrical engineering intern at Microsoft this past summer. She's also part of IEEE WAT, which stands for Women Advancing Technology. I don't know what the other T is for, but
Through teamwork.
Through teamwork, which is also a super cool club that has really good events that you should join. But she said that this summer she worked on a PCM to PDM converter, I don't know what that is, to automate audio testing for Microsoft's Surface Audio products. She designed schematics, did PCB layout, created a test plan, debugged firmware and hardware issues, bench tested the board, automated her tests, and analyzed resulting data. That sounds like a lot. It sounds fun though. She said that she learned a lot about the hardware development process, how to work more efficiently, and about new skills like schematic design and automating scripts. And it was different from classes because she actually had ownership and control over her project and how it was developed, kind of like how Isabel had control over her project in Amazon. And there weren't like set answers to her problems. The way that she got it was she applied online, did a phone screening, and then was invited to a hiring day where they flew her to Seattle and had 4 back-to-back interviews that were like 45 minutes long each, which is like, it's pretty typical in tech to have multiple interviews. But I mean, it definitely like depends on different internships as well. So if that scares you, don't get too scared, because it's like, there are definitely many internships that you can apply to that don't have that many interviews. And yeah, if Cynthia's here, would you
Hi
mind sharing?
everyone.
Okay.
Hi Cynthia. Can you all hear me? Okay, cool.
Yes.
My name's Cynthia. I graduated this past year, and I worked last summer. I worked at the Metropolitan Water District of the Southern California. It's down here in LA, and I worked at it as a mechanical engineering design intern. And this company, if y'all have never heard of it, basically it is responsible for getting water to most of Southern California. So from LA County, Orange County, Riverside County down to San Diego. So that's generally what they do. I would say it's a little bit different than the tech internships that have been previously mentioned, because it is kind of like a more public work company. And what I did was I basically had to design one of the pipes that were underground. So in our water infrastructure, there's not one pipe that's like hundreds of miles long from NorCal to SoCal. There's like little sections of it. And if you can imagine, we don't let the water flow constantly, right? Like just like our faucets, we want to turn them off eventually. But underground, these pipes they can be like 5 feet in diameter. So if you can imagine shutting off a faucet that big, there's a huge force from all the water still trying to flow through. So what I had to do was I had to design a configuration of the pipes, the gaskets, the nuts and bolts, all the parts that went into it, that would fit in the underground vaults that they have, where technicians can actually go down there and maintain these parts. So I used SolidWorks for most of my internship. I have watched it crash so many times, so I definitely think it's a great skill to learn, just like while you're still in school. I did take MAE 94 for those of you who are MAE in the MAE department, but honestly, most of the skills I learned through ASME, so their Fabrication and Design Essentials program is where I learned the hard skill of doing computer-aided design or CAD. Um, and so I used SolidWorks to actually make the model of the parts that we were trying to estimate. And I also used it to do FEA, or finite element analysis, which is figuring out how strong something is without actually needing to build it. So I did that, and it was different from classes because one thing was that there's no set answer. One of my bosses literally told me at the beginning of the summer, I don't know if this is possible for you to finish this summer, and I also don't know if it's possible in general, but we'll see what happens. So it was very different from a class assignment where you know in the back of your head, this is possible to do. Someone has done this before. And it was also different because we worked in interdisciplinary teams. So it wasn't just mechanical engineers, but I also worked with civil, chemical, and electrical engineers as well. And how I got this internship, honestly, I was at the career fair and I wanted to go home because, you know, career fairs can be tough and they're a little stressful. And then I saw one more table and I was like, well, there's no line, so I'll just talk to her and see what happens. So I talked to her and she ended up being really nice. And then I think a couple weeks later, they sent out applications and I applied and they invited me to interview. And I guess they liked me, so they hired me. So definitely kind of like what Isabel was saying, just kind of throw your resume out there, even if it's not something you think you'll be interested in. You don't really know what opportunities can come through.
Thanks so much, Cynthia. And the last testimonial we have is from Neha Iyer. She's gonna be my roommate. I love her, but she's part of she's part of BMES, which is Biomedical Engineering Society in UCLA. So if you guys are interested in that club, you should definitely check it out. But her internship this summer was being a bioengineering pharmaceutical discovery biology intern at Cytokinetics. And so she said that in addition to analyzing data from wet lab experiments, she mostly worked on a new target exploration project, which examines scientific literature to identify biological mechanism to therapeutically target with a small molecule. So she learned how research is conducted in industry as opposed to an academic setting, and how different groups of a pharmaceutical company work together to bring a drug to the market. And she says that research in the industry is a lot more focused on clinical outcomes and applications, while bioengineering classes are much more theoretical. In many classes at UCLA, they are very theory-based, which is why it's like so cool to contrast that experience with an internship, because it's like where you actually get to apply the theories that you learn in class in practice. And she says that she applied online through LinkedIn and she had a phone screening interview, and then she was invited for a 2.5-hour WebEx interview where she spoke to all of the members of the team that she was working with. So hopefully that gave you a good like overview of how these different technical internships are like. And if you want to reach out to these people to ask questions to them, I would recommend adding them on LinkedIn. I'll send the slides to you after this workshop as well so that you can do that. And then next we'll get to resume and cover letter tips. This is exciting. So what you want to do is you want to make your resume stand out. What I've gotten from a bunch of different people is that they recommend having multiple resume versions for like different jobs that different job positions that you're applying for. So I wouldn't say necessarily have a different resume for if you're applying to be a software engineer at multiple companies. Like that position is the same, and though they're probably looking for similar quality. So like using one resume for that position, but among multiple companies would be a good idea. But if you're also thinking of applying to be like a project manager, this is really just me telling you all what I'm interested in applying to. But like, if you want to apply to a project manager role, then you'd want to edit your resume to be less technical, or like still technical focused, but also show more of your leadership skills and project management skills. So it depends on like what you're applying for. Also, different companies care about different things. So I learned that defense companies like Northrop Grumman, I think Raytheon, care most about GPA and citizenship. So make that more noticeable. But I really don't like that citizenship like just gives you an edge. But that's a different conversation. But also, everything on your resume should be something that's fair game to be asked about by an interviewer, because they'll have questions for you to talk about your projects and test your proficiency in a language if you mention a coding language on your resume. But mostly it's like, if you have a project on there, be able to explain it at a very high level and super clearly. That's something that I'm also working on as well. So that's pretty difficult to get down. For stuff to include on your resume, especially if you feel like you don't have experience, you do, because in classes where you learn technical skills, you work on projects, you may have like project ideas that you've developed with friends, and it's worth it to put everything on your resume that you put in work for. Like just because it was for a class doesn't mean that like you shouldn't add it to your resume. So I would encourage you all to do that if that's something that you're struggling to find, if you're struggling to find what to put on your resume. And then another thing about your resume, which, oh my God, this was a nightmare for me, but you have to make it parsable. So I found out like 3 days ago, my resume is horribly parsed because it can't even like get my name when you run it through online applications. And I was just like, oh, that's fine, I'll just input it. But no, because job applications, they like just parse your resume using ATS, which is this software to just like check for keywords in your resume. And I hadn't been matching that, so I had to change it to be more parsable. And like a resume is more easily parsable really when you just when you don't use a template and like edit that template. Like if you just start out with a Word doc or a Google Doc and then just like write in your resume on like your different positions on different lines, that should be easily parsable and you'd be fine. Like most of you probably would not have the problem that I had. But if you're still paranoid about how parsable your resume is, you should try uploading it to the site jobscan.com, and they will help you see like what keywords that your resume matches and like how noticeable your resume is for different positions. So I recommend checking that out. Also, I'm sure that people have heard about cover letters. So, and they were wondering how important they are for applying to roles that they're interested in. The real answer is that it depends. Like you really only know if you have a source from that company that would tell you if they look at cover letters or not. You can ask recruiters from companies at SWE info sessions during fall, or EWI, which is Evening with Industry, a career fair that occurs in winter. And apparently the CIA cares a lot about a cover letter. So if you're applying to the CIA, you better have a cover letter. But the real thing is that if you do choose to write a cover letter, make sure it's 1 page or less in length, like 3 to 5 paragraphs, double spaced. Actually, I don't know if it has to be double spaced. I don't know why I put that. Ignore that. But if you can follow like the template link that I put on this slide. But I would suggest that if you're already going to put in the effort to make a cover letter, you should put in the effort to edit and polish it too. Like, I don't think it works in the way that like having a cover letter is better than not having a cover letter. Because if you have a cover letter and it takes you like 5 minutes to write, and like you don't think it's that great, like that might be even worse than not having a cover letter. So just edit it. And also create a LinkedIn account if you don't have one. It's basically just your resume, but on a website. So like I literally just copy and paste what's on my resume to LinkedIn. And we have some slides that Allison from Board like helped create, called Let's Update Your LinkedIn, from a workshop that we did earlier this summer that you can check out for some tips to make your LinkedIn stand out. Because LinkedIn is where you can reach out to a bunch of recruiters and like find about opportunities that way. It's like a really good place to get started with networking. Okay. If you guys have like questions while we're going through this, feel free to ask them in the chat. But okay, continuing, how to find internship applications. So this is oh my God, you guys have questions. Okay, the site to check your resume is jobscan.com. Isabel, you spelled it wrong.
No, you did. It's not a .com, it's a .co.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh God.
We already updated the slides. It's fine.
No.
You'd have to refresh.
No, it's
okay.
Oh, you're right. Fine. I accept defeat. I'm
I
so
win.
sorry, guys. I was
But
way
they're
too
both
confident.
redirects, so it's fine. But as far as like what it means for a resume to be parsable, so when you apply online to jobs, usually a human doesn't look at it first, just a scanner, and so they look for certain keywords. So say, for instance, you're applying for a front-end internship, they'll look for JavaScript, they might look for certain libraries like React or Angular, and so they're looking for those keywords, and if they don't find it, they throw your resume out. And so making it parsable and making it easier to just like read through and find those keywords is super important, just to get past that like first step to even have a human look at your resume. Yeah, no problem.
Thank you. Sorry about being wrong about the website. But this is the recruiting timeline. Well, this is more specific to computer science internships that I know of. But okay, it's gonna look scary because it basically starts like right now, because applications are open for tech positions for the next year super early, like the summer before the internship that you're applying for. So it's always good to like get your resume and LinkedIn to where you want it to be like in this time period, and then like apply throughout fall, and you'll get interviews and like a timeline for receiving offers is like second half of fall or in winter. But if that's something that you if that's like way too early for you, like there are also opportunities in winter, like conferences and career fairs that you can go to, and you'll have chances to get internships. But this timeline that's super early is like very specific to computer science internships. For research, I don't think this timeline applies to it. I'm just like basing this off of my roommate who like applies to research by like reaching out to like professors. Yeah, okay, Isabel covered it really well. Thank you. It's also never too late to reach out to someone about an internship opportunity. Like I was able to get an internship in my like after my first year when I reached out to someone during spring, like a month before the internship would start. But this is just like a guideline for letting you know that applications are open this early. Yeah, I think, okay, sorry, I was reading the question. Can someone get internships if you have little to no experience in your field? Definitely. It's also, honestly, it's just about how you carry yourself. Like if you carry yourself with confidence and also like give out the vibe that you are willing to learn and you're really curious and interested in the company that you want to work at, people will want to give you a chance. And like once you go through that, like, and you're given an internship, like that gives you more experience. So it's like, I don't know, having like your definition of having little to no experience, it might be different for every person, but don't let like you thinking that you're not qualified keep you from applying to something, because it's just like applying to something. Like,
Yeah, and I will add on to that and say I recently had an interview and I was like, what are you looking for as part of your team? You know, because pro tip, that's a good question to ask after your interview to like make sure your values align. And she was like, I don't care that much about technical experience because that can always be learned, but I care more about aptitude and willingness to learn. And so I think it's really about your attitude and your willingness to like try new things and learn new things. And also, even though we're having this workshop, internships aren't the end all be all, like by any means, especially for first and second years. I think the most important thing is exploring what you like, what you want to do, and kind of just gaining experience in that. So yeah, it could be an internship, but it could also be research. It could also be summer classes. It could be personal projects. This is just, it may be specific to internships, but it's not, don't feel pressure to get one, especially if you're a first or second year.
yeah, please don't feel pressured. That will make me feel very sad. That was not my goal. Thanks, Kendricks. Okay, so like how to find internship applications. So there are many ways that, like many avenues that you can go through. There's definitely applying online, like searching up keywords on like LinkedIn jobs. Like if you go to LinkedIn, there's like a jobs tab, and then looking and searching up like internships that you're interested in. There's this link with a list of companies to apply to. Again, I'll send out the slides after the workshop. And some other application sites are Ripple Match, Handshake, Piazza, and Jumpstart. So like it might be like overkill for like your own stress to like make profiles on all of those sites at once. I really don't think that you need to. I would like recommend when you're applying online not to like kind of get into everything at once, but maybe like start with just like 1 or 2 applications a day. Like maybe making a profile one day, but like just because this says like all of these resources, you don't have to do them all today or in a short amount of time. But there are also resume databases that companies look through to like they parse through it and then they reach out to people with those resumes for interviews. So there's the SWE UCLA sponsors resume database. Like Heidi, if you have that, could you send it to the chat? That'd be cool.
Yeah. For sure. I just want to hop in while we're at it. So Ripple Match is a company that we're working with this year, which is really awesome. And if you guys make a profile on there and find an opportunity that you want to apply to and complete an application, and you'll be submitted into our little raffle that we're having in September, and you can win some fun prizes. So that's something to look forward to. And the resume database, I think that's due this Sunday. So if you have your resume available, then be sure to submit it and we'll send this out to our sponsors. So this is already like an avenue in directly to our sponsors who are looking for people to hire.
Yeah, so definitely check that out. There's also this other resume database called the AnitaB.org database. It's like associated with the Grace Hopper Conference, which is also a really good conference to look at. But some other networking tips are to join Facebook groups. Like there's this one called Tech Recruiter Email Sharing, and Women of Rewriting the Code, I think, is a pretty good one because people post often there, like not just for like about wanting opportunities, but like kind of as like wanting to vent or like asking like community questions, which is always good. And you can attend events like We20 National, which is a virtual conference. There are hackathons, virtual hackathons that you could look up, like Technica and WeHacks, UTD. The links for them are on here. And like hackathons, if you enjoy hackathons, like they'll be fun to code at. And then you can also like meet companies there and ask them about industry experience. And another thing that you could do is asking people you know for like about how their internships went, if you know someone who's had an internship from a company that you were interested in, and asking them if they can maybe refer you to be an intern for the coming year, because that's also super helpful in getting you noticed. So leverage your connections. And now Smriti will talk about how to manage your applications.
Yeah, if you can go to the next slide, Rithika. So keeping track of your applications is pretty important, not just because like you don't forget where you've applied already. It's also so that you can keep track of when you last reached out to a recruiter, if you want to follow up with them again, but also just because like in general, it's just really less stressful to be organized, especially once school starts and you're going to have to start managing classes with the internship search. So I just have like a really basic template that I use to keep track of every place that I've applied to. If you can click on that, Rithika. And it's really, really simple. It's just a Google Doc, and I have the company, the position title, if I applied, or if I'm like waiting to like update my resume or something before I apply, the date I applied, where I am in the process, and then if I have an offer yet, yes or no, as well as where I got the like information from, and any other notes that I may have on that. Like it doesn't have to be super complicated, just a way for you to sort of collect what you've applied to, where you found it, and what stage of the process that you're at. But yeah.
Thanks, Smriti. You spelled internship wrong.
I'll fix it. That's embarrassing.
I'm kidding. I mean, that's not, I mean, you did spell it wrong, but I still love you. Okay, let's make this full screen. And then Simran's going to talk about technical questions and how to practice for them.
Yeah, so this is mainly for CS majors, maybe like some EE people as well who want to go into software. So some resources and tips. So first we have LeetCode. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of it. LeetCode is basically a website where you guys can like find coding questions and solve them. There's like easy, medium, and hard. There's also mock interviews. So basically it's a great resource for like practicing coding. You can use any language you want as well. So a couple of things about Lead Code. It's also really great to work with friends. I've definitely been doing that like over summer as well with Rithika actually. So it's pretty fun. Like you guys can like talk about pseudocode with each other and then try to implement it. This way you guys can like have different approaches and learn from each other as well. Also keep in mind, pick the language that you're most comfortable with. In UCLA, they start you off with C++. So I always felt like the most comfortable with that going into some technical interviews, but now instead I use Python because now I'm like more comfortable with that. So whatever works with you, you can always try both of them out, whatever works. And then the second resource is Notchenberg's CS32 slides. So for those of you who don't know, Notchenberg is a CS professor at UCLA, and he teaches CS32, which is data structures, like intro to data structures. And he has these amazing slides, which I've linked. Anyone who's taken his class, like, definitely know about the slides. They're so helpful. So definitely check that out. This is the second course for CS. So if you are a freshman, make sure you like learn CS31 first and then use these slides afterwards, but they're super useful. I still look over them before like any interview I have, and they give really great tips and tricks. And so I think that's really useful. And it's in C++ though. So if you want to use something else, you might want to look at different slides. And then our last resource is an interview prep with ACMW. So ACMW is another club at UCLA, and it's basically a computer science org. And this fall, we're going to have like an interviewee type of, like basically like small workshops. I think Rithika is going to have a form at the end where you can sign up for this. And basically we're going to make breakout rooms through Zoom where you guys can like discuss problems, work together, and then we'll like go through the answer at the end of the workshops. And this way you can also learn from other people, or if you're really stumped on a problem, you're able to like talk it through with people. And there will also be somebody who's like the interviewer, so they'll help you like basically help guide you through the interview, because it's not just you and like you're just expected to code. It's like you're allowed to talk through your approach and like kind of discuss that through. So those are our resources.
Yeah, thanks so much, Simran. So we also have this example of like a technical question from Tesla and how you would like think through it and like show your thought process during a technical interview. So Heidi,
so this is something that was shared with me over the summer. So there's like some more details in this that are more technical for primarily like mechie roles, but this is like a good way to approach like an interview question in general. So the question is there in red, and you're given the problem statement that you build and test your battery and it overheats, and how do you fix it? So the key here is to start analyzing the problem statement and just like looking at the words and setting up a simple like equation. So like T battery, temperature of the battery is greater than the maximum temperature that was set. So then you kind of like start from the first variable, battery, and see what goes into the temperature of the battery. And so there's another equation there in A2, and then you keep analyzing further and further down at all the different variables and seeing basically what influences that variable. So this is something that you can talk through or write down, especially to like keep track of everything when you're talking to your interviewer, and always like communicating what you're thinking and why you brought these things up. So you can see in the bottom like red bubble, it says don't start here, start at the top. So a lot of people tend to think of the equations that you learn in classes directly, or immediately, and they'll start there like, oh, these are K delta T over L, like this is something that I know, and they'll just spew that. But it's really important that you start from the top and break it down. It definitely shows your train of thought and like how cohesive it is, and also just like a fundamental understanding of the problem. And another thing that I thought was really helpful from the person who shared this with me was on the right side at Tmax. So Tmax in a lot of people's mind is like something that's set, like Tmax is the maximum. That's just a constraint in the problem. But he was saying in the little red bubble that don't ignore this variable. Like in this open-ended interview question, everything is game. You can think of ways to change Tmax because this is a valid component into the temperature, like the maximum temperature. So definitely don't leave any variable out when you're responding to these questions because it's definitely fair game. So I know that this is a lot to take in, especially when you're like in an interview, but it definitely comes with practice. And I think he was saying that all the stuff in like green from A1 to A3 is something that he would expect someone who has worked for like 2 years or so to definitely understand and cover. And then A4 is a little bit more in depth when you're really getting into, I think, more of the technical elements. So mentioning how each variable could be changed, how difficult it would be to change, and how effective that change would be. So you can tell it's a lot more, those descriptions are a lot more analytical and in-depth, but these definitely elevate your skills and like demonstrating your skills. So I thought that this was a super, super valuable little screenshot to have and to keep in mind when you're practicing interview questions and also when you're interviewing for an internship or a career.
Yeah, definitely. Another thing too is with the slide before, if you were like, oh, that's not before, but if you wanted to like look through these slides, like after we sent the link out later, I should let you all know that the slides are most useful when you download them in PowerPoint form and then like click through the animations, because like what's really good about these slides is that they like go through like each and every step. Like I swear every slide has like 100 animations, and it's actually like kind of fun to go through. But like just viewing them on Google Slides and like not knowing the context will probably like make your brain go crazy. So that's just a warning. And now we're going to talk about like just some advice for an application starter pack, hopefully so you don't get too overwhelmed with all of this information that we just threw at you.
Yeah, so the goal of this section is just to kind of condense everything that we've talked about and kind of like discern the most important parts of it and make it nice and readable. So the first thing is make it look nice, make you look nice. And so the two biggest things there are just your resume and your LinkedIn. The other profiles are nice to haves, but these two are definitely the most important. And so of course, go back to either our slides here or the LinkedIn slides to really beef those bad boys up. But once you have that ready, you can start applying. So I've linked some beginner-friendly applications. Granted, these are all for CS internships, but Google Step, FBU, and Microsoft Explorer all focus for freshmen and second years who don't have the most experience in software engineering. So it's really great as kind of an introductory way to get into the industry. But the biggest takeaway I think here is just target companies that you care about. There's absolutely no harm in shooting your shot with any company that you find interesting, any industry that you find interesting, because big names aren't everything. It may seem kind of hypocritical coming from someone that has interned at a big company, but like I can tell you firsthand, it's not the end all be all. And so really just focus on what makes you happy and the stuff that you're doing that makes you happy. So in order to just get those internships, get those applications going, like I said before, reach out to any clubs and see if they have any connections. ASME has been mentioned a lot. They're a great resource for mechanical engineering folks. ACS, IEEE for EE, there's a lot of different resources. And of course, SWE itself, we have a lot of info sessions with really cool companies. So if you come out to those, it's gonna be a lot fall quarter. You can get that. And then also just LinkedIn stalk everyone, recruiters, classmates, anyone and everyone, me even, or just connect, love more connection. Reach out to people, shoot your shot, because once again, the worst thing that can happen is being left unread, and I'm sure that's happened to all of us before. But yeah, just go into it like unafraid and just ready to learn and see what happens, essentially.
Yes.
Can go to the next. I have one more thing. But also, I've said this before, internships aren't everything. It's totally okay to not have an internship, and especially for the first and second years. Transitioning to college is already stressful enough. Don't have an internship worry be something else that bogs you down. Focus more on like figuring out who you are as a person and figuring out your classes and all the needfuls like that. Internships can be low on that priority. And also there's other avenues and career paths. Research, summer classes, personal projects, once again, are all really amazing options. But yeah, just focus on yourself and your mental health and the rest will follow. And that's it for me.
So if you're interested in attending like technical interview practice workshops in the fall, I'd like you to fill out this form. I'll send it in the chat too, so you don't have to make your hands work in typing it out. For a CS major, I'm pretty slow at typing, but I won't let that bog me down. Okay, I hope I spelled that right. Okay. And then lastly, we wanted to ask you all, if you had any questions, shoot them in the chat or unmute yourself to ask.
Also, just to add, like, do not be scared to ask questions either. We know this process is so stressful. Like, I think like me and Ritika and Smriti, we're juniors right now, and like we're doing this process as well. So like we definitely know what you guys are going through too. So please reach out to us.
I had a quick question. So what like amount of coding do you think is needed for, I guess, average internships? And like what language is the most popular?
So I would say there's not a very direct answer to that. Like, I think it's like the way they teach CS at UCLA is like very theoretical. Like, even though you learn C++ first, it's like a lot of concepts that help you get the hang of coding in different languages right after. Like basically like what you have to pick up in different languages is syntax. I would say like put a language on your resume if you've coded like at least one project in it and you have like experience like navigating the language to do something that you want. And I would say like for stuff that you don't think that you have much experience in, like you definitely do have experience in some ways, and like don't let that deter you from applying. And just like let people know that you are interested in the company and the position and you're willing to learn, and like phrase it that way and it'll come off really good. I'm gonna go through this chat too.
Yeah, I can help you. So there's this one question that says, where can we find sample interview questions? So as I talked about, LeetCode definitely has a whole like tab where you guys can do practice interviews. So I know that's a really good resource to find them. And I think just like online, just looking up like simple coding examples that you can use for technical interviews, like that's going to be really helpful. Yeah. And then also regarding the classes for interviews and stuff. So mainly there isn't like a specific class that you have to take, but if for CS, I think just like taking the pattern CS31 and CS32 are both really helpful for interviews. And I remember my professor always says that I think like 95% of the material that you learn in those two classes will be included in your interviews. So like basically the rest of everything that you're asked in your interview is in those two classes majority of the time. So I would just say maybe just those two classes.
Okay, so someone asked if it would be okay to connect with someone on LinkedIn even though you don't really know them. Yeah, definitely. I feel like people do that with me. and no, not in a way like they want to reach out to me, but like I don't know. I feel like people think that I'm like not a college student, and they sometimes ask me like, are you looking for people to like apply to a job? And I'm just like, no, I don't have a company. Like, I have no positions for you. I'm trying to look for one. But like, it's definitely is a thing. Like, if that is something that happens to me, you can reach out to like people on LinkedIn and just ask them questions. There's like, I mean, there's nothing bad that can come out of it. So I would say if you're like interested in like a specific company, just like look up that company on LinkedIn, like see who follows it, and just like hit them up with a, hey, I'm interested in getting to learn about what you do at this company. Something that simple. Awesome.
Okay. I see another question that's like, should you take out everything that you did in high school on your resume? So I would say that if you're a freshman, not necessarily, because like I think going into freshman year, like my entire resume was from high school. But I think that as you gain more experience, you should definitely like you'll be making new projects, you'll be like adding new things to your resume, which will definitely happen as you like progress in college. So don't stress about taking everything out from high school. Like I am a junior and I still have like a little bit of high school stuff. So I think like just make it gradual process, but don't feel pressure to like immediately take everything out. Yeah.
There's also a question for how to ask someone for a referral. So it like I don't think you have to like know them super well to just ask. Like, I mean, if anything, you can get to know like what they did, and then see if that's something like first see before asking for a referral, like if that job description that they did is something that you're interested in, because like you guys aren't robots. Like, you have needs and wants, and like in internships, and so you should see like how they treat the people that work for them, and also like what those people get to work on, and if that's something that you're interested in. So just use like anything, even like asking someone for a referral and them saying that they can't do it for you, as an opportunity to maybe ask them about their experience.
Yeah, I will also add asking like fellow students for referrals is a lot easier than asking just like randos or tangentially related people you find on LinkedIn. I think especially this summer because I'm a senior, so I'm like looking for full time. A lot of just random people that I've just taken classes with were all just like messaging like, hey, saw you work here, can you hit me up with that referral link? And you know, I think what's really great about UCLA is that it's very collaborative, and that definitely extends to finding jobs. So yeah, if you see any like students and friends of yours that are like, oh, I would totally love to work there, like there's no harm in reaching out, because 9 times out of 10 they'll say yes.
Also, Isabel, did you ever have like a limit to how many people you could refer?
I'm not sure. I don't think I hit it. If there was a limit, yeah, at the very least, this past summer I didn't have a limit, but unfortunately I can't refer anymore. I don't think, unless I just message my manager. So I don't have access to the company network anymore, which is big sad.
Yeah, I think we have time to answer one more question. So, or I'll say for like how important coding is for non-CS internships, like probably not as important. Like, it always depends on the job description. Like, if like usually they're very clear in job description, like we would like someone to work with this language, and like for something like that, if it's like a non-CS internship, that likely won't be there. But like definitely include like projects that you've worked on that are non-coding related but still technical.
Yeah, I don't know if Heidi or Cynthia maybe can speak more to that, considering Mechie is not like a traditionally CS field. Or not.
Sorry, for the like how important coding is?
Yeah.
So it depends on the job, because there are some companies that they'll hire a mechanical engineer specifically so that, like, for the position that requires you to understand the mechanical side of it and the software side of it, so that you're not just blindly coding, you also understand how something works mechanically as well. But there are a lot of, depending on the industry, there are so many internships where you don't need to know coding at all. So for example, my internship, I only need to know SolidWorks, and I didn't have to do anything related to coding. So it depends on like what company you work for and also what position they're hiring for.
Yeah, as similar to Cynthia, like my 2 internships haven't required me to code specifically, but I know that sometimes if you want to run tests on your projects, then you will feel like you might have to code a bit for that. But it definitely depends on the role you're applying to. So check the job description to see if you need to have that requirement.
Awesome. Thanks everyone for attending today's workshop, and for ASME for collaborating with us, and SWE as well. I will upload this recording to the SWE YouTube and then send out the slides to all the people that RSVP'd.
I think there's one question in there. When is the technical interview practice interest form due?
Wait, what was the question?
When is the technical interview practice interest form due?
I hadn't thought that far, but but before the end of the first week of college, so I'd say October 2nd. I'll update the form to include that due date, but let's say October 2nd at night. Okay, thanks everyone.